Hey there, folks. Welcome back to another deep dive into the fascinating world of history and crime. Tonight, we're diving deep into the world of money laundering. It's a term you might have heard in movies or TV shows, but do you really know what it means? It's not as glamorous as it sounds. Forget Tide Pods and fabric softener. This is about criminals trying to make their dirty money look squeaky clean. Imagine having piles of cash that you can't spend without raising eyebrows. Think back to the Prohibition era. Remember Al Capone? Scarface himself? He was more than just a notorious gangster. He was a master of manipulation and strategy. He wasn't just a gangster, he was a businessman, a ruthless one, but a businessman nonetheless. Capone's operations were vast and complex. Capone's bootlegging empire raked in massive amounts of cash. We're talking millions of dollars, which was an astronomical sum back in the 1920s, but there was a problem. It was all illegal. The money was dirty, tainted by its association with crime. Law enforcement was always on the lookout, making it risky to use this money openly. You can't exactly deposit stacks of bills with bootleg booze written in the memo line. Banks would get suspicious and the authorities would be alerted. So, what did Capone do? He got creative. He needed a way to disguise the origins of his money. To make it appear legitimate, he used legitimate businesses like laundromats to mix his ill-gotten gains with legitimate income. By doing this, he could claim that the money came from a legal source. Hence, the term money laundering. It was a clever scheme, allowing him to clean his dirty money and use it without raising suspicion. Clever, right? Except not really. While it might seem ingenious, it was still very much illegal and unethical. It's criminal and it funds all sorts of nasty stuff. Money laundering isn't just about hiding money, it's about enabling further criminal activities. Capone's antics, along with the rise of organized crime, showed the world just how dangerous money laundering could be. It wasn't just a financial crime, it had real-world consequences. It wasn't just about hiding cash, it was about fueling criminal enterprises and undermining the entire financial system. The ripple effects were enormous, affecting everyone from small businesses to large financial institutions. And that, my friends, is where the government decided to step in. They realized the need for stricter regulations and more robust enforcement to combat this growing threat. Laws were enacted and agencies were formed to tackle money laundering head-on. So, the next time you hear about money laundering, remember its dark origins and the impact it has had on society. It's a reminder of how crime can infiltrate even the most mundane aspects of life, like doing laundry. The Roaring Twenties may be over, but the problem of money laundering wasn't going anywhere. Criminals were getting more sophisticated, finding new ways to hide their illicit gains. By the 1970s, the government decided enough was enough. The financial system was being exploited, and it was time to take action. They needed a way to track the flow of money and crack down on criminal activity. The challenge was immense, but the stakes were too high to ignore. Enter the Bank Secrecy Act of 1970, or BSA for short. This piece of legislation was designed to bring transparency to financial transactions. Now, the BSA wasn't some groundbreaking, sexy piece of legislation. It was more like a necessary evil, a tool to help law enforcement. It didn't single-handedly stop money laundering overnight, but it laid the groundwork for future efforts. But it was a start. The BSA required banks to keep detailed records of cash transactions over a certain amount, creating a paper trail. The BSA forced banks to keep records of cash transactions over a certain amount. This was a significant shift in how financial institutions operated. Think of it like a paper trail for money. Every transaction left a footprint, making it harder for illicit funds to go unnoticed. The goal: to make it harder for criminals to move their money around without anyone noticing. It is about creating accountability. Of course, criminals are a resourceful bunch. They quickly adapted, finding new ways to circumvent the system. They're always looking for new ways to stay one step ahead of the law. The cat and mouse game between law enforcement and criminals continued. And as the world changed, so did the methods of money laundering. New technologies and global financial systems presented both challenges and opportunities. The BSA was just the beginning. It set the stage for more comprehensive measures in the future, adapting to the ever-evolving landscape of financial crime. Fast forward to the 1980s. Shoulder pads were big, hair was bigger, and the drug trade was exploding. Cocaine cowboys became the new Al Capones, raking in mountains of cash from the illegal drug trade. They needed to clean their dirty money, and they found creative ways to do it. The existing laws just weren't cutting it. The government needed to up its game. That's where the Money Laundering Control Act of 1986 came in. This wasn't just about tracking money anymore. It was about making money laundering itself a crime. Suddenly, hiding illegal profits wasn't just a tax evasion issue, it was a serious federal offense. The act also gave law enforcement agencies more power to seize assets connected to money laundering. The message was clear. We're onto you, criminals, and we're coming for your cash. Section 4. Joining forces, the birth of the FATF. Money laundering doesn't respect borders, and neither should the fight against it. This illicit activity is a global problem that requires a coordinated international response. Criminals exploit the differences in national laws and regulations to move their ill-gotten gains across borders, making it difficult for any single country to tackle the issue alone. In 1989, world leaders recognized the need for a united front. The 1980s were a time of significant geopolitical change, and the rise of global financial networks made it clear that a fragmented approach was no longer viable. Leaders from the world's most powerful economies came together to address this growing threat. They got together and created the Financial Action Task Force on Money Laundering, or FATF. This organization was established with the primary goal of developing and promoting policies to combat money laundering. It was a groundbreaking step towards international cooperation and financial regulation. Think of FATF as the United Nations of anti-money laundering. Just as the UN brings countries together to address global issues, the FATF unites nations in the fight against financial crime. It provides a platform for countries to collaborate, share information, and develop strategies to combat money laundering and terrorist financing. They set the global standards for combating money laundering and terrorist financing. These standards are designed to ensure that all countries have robust measures in place to detect and prevent financial crimes. By adhering to these standards, countries can protect their financial systems from being exploited by criminals. They have 40 recommendations, which are basically the best practices for countries to follow. These recommendations cover a wide range of topics, including customer due diligence, record keeping, and reporting suspicious transactions. They provide a comprehensive framework for countries to build their anti-money laundering regimes. It's like a rulebook for fighting financial crime, and it covers everything from customer due diligence to international cooperation. The FATF's recommendations are constantly updated to address new and emerging threats, ensuring that countries are always equipped to tackle the latest challenges in financial crime. The FATF's mission is simple: to make it harder for criminals to exploit the global financial system. By setting international standards and promoting effective implementation of legal, regulatory, and operational measures, the FATF aims to protect the integrity of the global financial system. They've been pretty successful too. Over the years, the FATF has played a crucial role in strengthening the global response to financial crime. Their efforts have led to significant improvements in the way countries detect, prevent, and prosecute money laundering and terrorist financing, but the fight is far from over. Criminals are constantly finding new ways to launder money and finance terrorism, and the FATF must continually adapt to stay ahead of these evolving threats. The organization's work is never done, and the need for international cooperation remains as important as ever. As criminals find new ways to launder money, the FATF and the rest of the world have to adapt and stay one step ahead. This means embracing new technologies, enhancing international cooperation, and continuously updating their strategies to address the ever-changing landscape of financial crime. The fight against money laundering is a dynamic and ongoing battle, and the FATF is at the forefront of this global effort. Section 5, Terrorism Changes the Game, from AML to CTF. Then came September 11, 2001. The world watched in horror as terrorists attacked the United States. It was a wake-up call, and it changed everything. The fight against financial crime took on a whole new urgency. It became terrifyingly clear that money laundering wasn't just about funding drug cartels and organized crime, it was about financing terrorism. Suddenly, we weren't just talking about drug money, we were talking about funding for weapons, training camps, and attacks that could kill innocent people. The world had to act, and it did. New laws and regulations were put in place. The focus expanded from anti-money laundering, or AML, to include counter-terrorist financing, or CTF. The goal was simple: to cut off the flow of money to terrorist organizations and prevent future attacks. Section 6. Fighting crime in the digital age. AML Goes High-Tech. Remember those 1970s ledger books? Yeah, those are long gone. We live in a digital world where money moves at the speed of light. Criminals love this. They use cryptocurrencies, online gaming, and complex financial instruments to launder their dirty cash. But here's the good news. So do the good guys. The fight against financial crime has gone high-tech. Law enforcement agencies are using advanced data analytics, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to track suspicious transactions and identify criminal networks. Think of it like a digital game of cat and mouse. As criminals develop new ways to launder money, law enforcement agencies are developing new tools to catch them. It's a constant race against time and technology, but it's a race we can't afford to lose. Section 7, the never-ending battle, the future of AML. So where do we go from here? The fight against money laundering is far from over. It's a constantly evolving challenge. As new technologies emerge, criminals find new ways to exploit them. But there's hope. The key is international cooperation. We need to share information, resources, and expertise across borders. We need to close loopholes and strengthen regulations. And we need to keep investing in new technologies and approaches to stay one step ahead of the criminals. The fight against money laundering is a marathon, not a sprint, but it's a fight worth fighting. By working together, we can make the world a safer place and ensure that crime doesn't pay. And that's something we can all get behind.